Everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Hello. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. How's everybody doing? How's everyone doing today? Hey, Laura. Did you see my comment where the plea deal papers BK signed had? Yeah, we went over that a long time ago. We went over that like 5 days ago, guys. Let me see. I'll show you the channel because I did a video on it. It was after I think it was after the hearing, I did a video on the newest documents. Let's see when this was. Right here. Where I said, how is this acceptable? Because there's no details, there's no information. It's just like, yes, 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 and no big deal. Yeah, no, we went over this right here. And there's actually two versions of these. There's two of these documents on here. I'll show you all those real quick too, because I've showed them. I showed you the first one. This is the first one that popped up right here, like this. And then we had this second one, or is this the plea agreement portion of it right here? Because we saw this too, where it has multiple signatures at the bottom, and then like the actual, just the agreement portion of it. And then we had this miscellaneous written factual basis, but it's the exact same thing. And they're all like this, where it's crossed out. And honestly, they were discussing this in June. I had told you guys that I got a message on the 26th that the next day the families were going to be meeting up with the prosecutor on the 27th. And it was like the Sunday that they had the conversation about it. So the 27th, I believe, was the Friday. And then everything was finalized, or at least approved or agreed to, between the prosecution and the defense on the night of the 29th. So with it being, I mean, honestly, they should have printed out another paper. It would have taken all of 5 damn seconds to go in there and put July instead of making it look like this. As a notary, I'm not a notary anymore, but as a notary, I would have had to have stamped this, put my initials on it and everything, just because this is crossed out. Like, I would have had to have been really, really specific about that situation. So I know that it's some reason, I saw people were some reason talking about it today on Twitter like it's brand new, but no, we definitely went over that. We went over that about a week ago almost now. Yeah, Travis Decker. Hey, Kevin, how you doing? I saw that Travis Decker was spotted in Idaho. The stuff with Jack and Lily has been insanely stupid because there's no details, and there's people from Daniel's side of the family and Malea's side of the family, these two girls that keep coming out here and talking, and they're giving conflicting statements. Like, they were both apparently there at the same time. I mentioned this about a week or so ago. They were both apparently there at the same time, and they have different recollections on the blanket that was found and the footprints and like everything. But there's a lot coming out, especially when it comes to what Daniel was apparently doing in the bathroom that caused the big blow up on Saturday to begin with. Yeah, there's a lot. We're going to go over all of those within this week coming. Plus, the FBI, for those of you who have been following along with Delphi and all the things that go along with Delphi, the FBI has been doing some more work in the Flora 4 case where those 4 kids died in that fire and there was like proof of arson and stuff. I was asked to look at that one and give my opinion on that one for a while, but we've been so just busy with all of this. But now that they're looking into something, I'm going to assume that means they have information. Something is making them go over there and ask questions. So I'm glad to see that. Good evening, everybody. We are going to go over the state's information that they gave during the hearing because it was a bunch of lies. It was a bunch of lies. And I don't see how anyone, oh, by the way, everything that is donated tonight via Cash App or PayPal, I'm going to give it straight to that same Texas Foundation Fund that I sent the other PayPal donation to that I got from Miss Lisa the other day. So anything tonight that is PayPal or Cash App is going straight over there at the end of the night, and I'm going to put the receipt up the way that I did before, just so you know that that's why this is going across the stream. So we are going to go through this, and we're going to call out the lies. We're going to call out the lies. Hey, Jackie. And, we're going to bring up the documents and prove all the lies. And the first one is that they were asleep. No, they weren't. Per your own damn timeline, your little star witness over there was adding contacts to her phone just 10 minutes before everything was apparently going and so stupid. So no, they were not asleep. And then they were discussing things with each other. They were obviously talking to each other because Steve Goncalves is aware of conversations being had between Dylan and Bethany. And that's why he has so many issues with everything, but he's just been real quiet about all those issues, which I don't understand. I don't understand why he hasn't been vocal about the right things. I really just, there's got to be a way that our side and that side can come together to do this the right way, because the main goal is the same for everybody. The truth. The truth. We were engulfed in this before we ever knew who the frick Bryan was. Okay. All this did was become even bigger of a thing. And it's just weird to me. Humans are weird, bro, that they can sit here. They can sit here for 3 years almost and complain about the PCA. But then something that's basically the PCA being rewritten and then some lies added on is said in the courtroom. And they act like suddenly, miraculously, it all makes sense, even though it's the exact same information that started them asking questions to begin with. Humans make no sense. They really make no sense at all. I am not against it ever, 100%, that he could be involved in some way. But I don't see it. And they haven't proven it. And this doesn't do anything for me. I've shown y'all plenty of cases. I've shown you cases where people have pled guilty to things that they didn't do. Some of them in groups where one of them was like, y'all are insane. We didn't do crap. What are you doing? And they ended up all being convicted anyway and then proven innocent later on, spending decades in jail of all of their life being completely wasted. All of the trauma, all the PTSD that they would come out with after being innocent and being locked into that place for decades. These people have won like millions of dollars in lawsuits against the police departments, against the cities, against all these people that did a piss poor job because it was all quantity over quality, and all they care about is closing cases. Now, how we got here so close to trial, I don't know. Something happened. Something crazy happened. That's all I know. That's the only thing that's the only thing that makes any sense to me. Something crazy happened. So that's why I want to go back over this, because there is no way in hell that if I was a judge that I could sit there and listen to Thompson tell me all of this bullshit that I've already gone over the facts proving that it's all lies and not say something. He's seen all of the proof. He's gone through the 911 call. He's gone through the text messages. He knows that Dylan did not go to sleep at all that night. He knows the two girls both technically did not go to sleep that night. There's very little lapse in time of Bethany's timeline where there's nothing happening. But for Dylan's, it's constant. Nothing has been okay. So we're going to listen to this and call out what's wrong and see what other things were talked about. I know that he says something about a container and a bunch of weirdos went stupid all of a sudden and jumped on AI and started making a bunch of photos and stuff of him holding like a big glass jar all full of blood. Because, you know, it's not sadistically stupid enough. You got to add like these fake ass visuals to it. But they're putting him in like the black outfit. When in reality, the story that was told was whatever was carrying a vacuum type object was dressed like a fireman. So everyone is just taking whatever they want. And I could be guilty of the same thing. They're taking whatever they want to and are running with it with a bunch of falsities. Instead of sticking to the facts that we actually have, they're letting their imaginations run wild and pretending like we've learned anything new. And I have a problem with that because we haven't learned anything new. The families haven't learned anything new. I will ask again for the 1,000th freaking time. What time did Ethan and Xana actually get home that night? What time was Xana actually on TikTok? Was it 3:16 or was it 4:12? And why, whenever the evidence started being shown to the public, their timeline started shifting back to that 3 to 4 a.m. timeline that it was before the arrest? All of these things still need to be answered. And until they're answered, this is what I'm going to be asking, because there's nothing wrong with asking questions, especially whenever the families, I don't care how complicit some of them have been, there's no reason for their complicitness and their ridiculous way that they just bowed down and took it to be okay for these victim stories. Their stories have not been told yet. This is why it's victims over families all of the time, because the people that are left behind are the ones that are just going to do whatever. And most of the time, it's not on the benefit or for the good of the person whose life was lost. It's on whatever they can do for themselves to either benefit from this, to be glorified from it, to get sympathy from it. People are sick. Okay. I'm not just going to sit here and be okay with everyone's story just going in the wind. No proof, no facts, no actual time of death, no what actually happened. That's not okay. And it's disgusting for the people that are okay with it, because is this what you would want for anyone that you cared about, regardless of if it was a family member, a child, a parent, just a friend? Would you want no answers? Yeah, he pled guilty, so that's just what it is. How, though? How? No, none of this is cute. None of this is cute. None of this is okay. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to start this so that we can start calling out the boo-boo. Because that's like the only thing that we can really do at this point until we at least get some documents, which I filed lots of FOIAs today. So that should be interesting.
Did you honor about that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Kaylee Goncalves, a human being?
Okay, see how people are looking this way? I have looked everywhere. This is just a pause for a second. This is why I started it right here. I have been looking everywhere for that Alita chick story to be corroborated by someone else that was in that courtroom with proof. Having a seating chart does not mean that butts were in those seats. That's number one. Number two, I don't understand how, if her story is true, anyone can believe the act. Because according to her, and I don't care Watts of the Obsession or whoever has a problem with whatever my opinion is, I don't care. She's out here partying it up. She's been partying it up. There's new photos of her partying it up on July the 4th, literally just 2 days after this happened, looking like she's just fine. And we're supposed to believe that while this was happening, she's sitting there covering her ears and turning towards the wall and freaking out. Prove it. Prove she was even there. I understand there's people looking this way. And if she was really in the courtroom and that's really what was going on, I'm still not going to believe it. Why would I want to believe that whenever she blatantly lied to Steve Goncalves' face, has acted as if she didn't know what the hell really happened? Her mind and her memory is everywhere. She was out of her gourd, intoxicated, and who knows what else. And I'm supposed to be sympathetic to somebody who left somebody on the floor to die for 8 hours because they thought that they overdosed on alcohol and just didn't care to go check? 2 people? I don't feel sympathy for that. I just don't. Even if, in the most innocent of terms, they're just pathetically ignorant and don't deserve to live alone because they just can't function as adults. No. You left your friend on the floor for 8 hours. And Steve Goncalves saw the messages where they are discussing how it sounds like they're being killed, how the people that actually were killed sounds like they're being killed. Who let the dog back in 30 minutes later? That's another question. What about Murphy? So we're supposed to just sit back and pretend like all of the questions that we have for these roommates just disappear? I don't think so. I don't think so.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And that's another thing. How is it premeditation if we're supposed to believe that like all these different things were taking place that couldn't have been planned for? And I understand that like in a lot of states, just like 5 seconds of taking a single thought to do anything, even in self-defense, which is really stupid, which I'm not saying is the case here, but even in self-defense situations, if you've had some sort of like time lapse of just a few seconds to like let your brain actually think about something, they call it premeditation, which is honestly kind of stupid. So I don't know. Some of these charges, the way that they like are copying and pasting them, doesn't make a lot of sense at all. If they want us to believe their story, I feel like they shouldn't all be the same. There should be some difference here.
And did you, on that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, pardon me, a human
and
being?
See, look, that's another thing. He said so many things incorrect. You've been doing this for how long now? Get the names right. Like we already had this problem in the very beginning.
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And then on, we're about November 13th, 2022.
And see, you'll see, like people keep looking that way. But even then, like that girl, like I saw her seating chart and it just, the way that she has the state and the prosecutor's office, desk, and the way that she puts the other 2 sides, there's obviously some stuff missing because there's nothing on her chart about where Brett Payne is supposed to be. And again, I went through Anjanette Levy on her own channel, on Law and Crime, on other channels that she was on, Brian Inton, a couple other people. None of them mentioned them being inside the courtroom. So I understand if the judge was like, no photos, no videos, nothing. But for him to be like, don't even mention that they were sitting in here. What? No, that doesn't make sense.
In Latah County, Idaho, did you kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being?
Yes.
Did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
I would ask the state at this time to
Here we
provide,
go.
its recitation of its factual basis had this case gone to trial.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the organization of the recitation is different than what I think the court and the public may be familiar with from the probable cause affidavit and other documents.
But you're wrong, because you are about to spew a bunch of damn lies. And you know it. That's why you're prefacing it with, it's a little different. No, it ain't. No, it's not. Because even your best friend, Santa's helper over there that apparently had her eyeballs on Kohberger right before go time, isn't even mentioned. Amazing, isn't it?
The state's evidence as an overview would show that back in March of 2022, when the defendant was residing at his parents' residence or residing back in Pennsylvania, his home state, he purchased online a K-bar knife and sheath with an Amazon gift card that he had purchased shortly prior to the purchase of the knife, sheath, and sharpener. Jumping ahead.
So we're just not going to even, right here, he could have said the sheath found at the scene with the USMC logo matches the one from the purchase history. Why didn't we hear that? Why didn't we hear that? I have been questioning, and everyone else has been questioning this entire time. Did it have the damn logo? You can tell us all day long he bought something months before go time. Did it have a logo on it? Did it have the USMC logo on it? Did it? Silence.
The end of June of that year, the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington, which is right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho.
Which thousands and thousands and thousands of kids do whenever they start college. Okay, next.
For the purpose of pursuing a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. The state's evidence would indicate that beginning July 9th of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone began.
And that's the date of the pool party, isn't it? Isn't July 9th the date of the pool party that his neighbor invited him to? That was in Moscow. This is also the pool party that Steve Goncalves and Brett Norton had conversations about in their text messages that is proven to not be the same pool party that Kaylee went to, that certain psychic channels are trying to put together when it comes to how Bryan would have met or known anyone. Steve Goncalves himself came out and said no. One was indoor, one was outdoor, different locations, had nothing to do with anything. That was the first time he was in Moscow by invite of the neighbor.
Connecting to a cell tower that serves the area of the 1122 King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho. Now, I will acknowledge for the court and all present that there are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants.
Okay, he just said, there's so many people that live over there, meaning he could have been visiting anyone. They can't put him at 1122 King Road for any of the pings he just mentioned. Everyone caught that, right? Because it's funny how people are forgetting what was said in court. He just said, all those people there, could have been anybody he was visiting, but we're going to make it convenient for us.
July 9th of 2022 and November 7th, the defendant's phone connected to that particular tower during late night, early morning hours, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. on approximately 23 times.
And again, there's so many residents in that area. In the cell coverage area, there's so many residents, meaning he could have been going to see anyone if he was there at all. We don't know who else he might have met at that pool party. He could have been dating somebody in Moscow and been over there so many times because he was in some sort of situationship with somebody over there. We don't know. Everything's been kept so quiet. Look how many people's numbers he got at that pool party. That chick handed him her phone. I have never once handed a man my damn phone. You want me to have your number? You better write it down somewhere old school because you're not touching my shit. She handed him her phone and she immediately texted or called him, whichever one, to make sure that he had her contact details. He could have easily been dating somebody, sleeping with somebody over there. He could have been going over there for who knows what reason. Because again, what did Billy Boy just say? So many residents and we can't put him there. People are dumb.
Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times.
We can put his phone using the tower that services all these people, all these residents. I'm sorry. You've just literally said that you cannot put him even there. You have his phone pinging to a tower that has a 10 to 15 mile radius of coverage. This man could be sitting in his freaking living room, and because of tower traffic, his phone tower situation moves around, and he won't even have to move off his couch. He just admitted they have nothing at all, not even from the night of the crime, that actually physically puts Bryan at 1122. I don't know how people are pretending like that didn't just come out of his mouth.
In the interim, on August 22nd of 2022, Lake Tahoe County Sheriff's Deputy Darren Duke conducted a traffic stop in the early morning hour or late evening hours, about 11 p.m. On the west side of Moscow, on the Moscow-Pullman Road.
And this proves what? Again, the state only admitted this, which hopefully that'll be one of the first things that comes out, because I FOIA'd that a long time ago before we even knew that it was evidence. And then whenever they came out and said, oh, this is like a public thing now, or it's a public document now, I went and tried to FOIA it again and was still told no. But what the state said was that it was just for ID. It was just to show who he was, the kind of car he had, what his phone number was, and I think his address, something like that. It was the judge that came out in an order and tried to put something else on this 404 evidence. After the law already stated, the state had to be very forthcoming for what it was being submitted for. They said ID only. The judge said, nope, shows premeditation. But it doesn't. And who the frick are you to try to change what the state is trying to say when it comes to the evidence? Somebody is putting money in this dude's pocket. There's nobody that's going to change my mind at this point.
This was a traffic stop of Mr. Kohberger's car, which turned out to be a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. During the course of the traffic stop, Deputy Duke was able to obtain Mr. Kohberger's name, Bryan Kohberger, his phone number, and his address, which at that point was a apartment address in Pullman.
See, so you got his information way before the crime even started. And what drives me crazy is that a bunch of the shows, like the one that the CW did with Brian Inton, and I think even the Peacock one that we just went over, they both tried to act as if him getting pulled over in Pullman is where all of this information came from, because they show, I guess it's because they need visuals. So they figured they'll just lie to their audience because they don't have any footage from the Moscow pullover. So they're basically just lying about where this information came from so they can put in the Pullman footage of him getting pulled over when that's not true. Both shows have done that. I don't understand how they're getting away with just blatant bullshit.
We then move to the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. The state's evidence would show that early morning hours on that day, Mr. Kohberger's phone left his Pullman residence, which is an apartment in kind of the central northwest part of Pullman. That phone was then subsequently turned off at approximately 2:54 a.m.
Subsequently turned off. You have yet to produce forensic download information proving Bryan Kohberger turned off his phone. Ever. Even in the PCA, especially in the PCA, it was based off of Blaker and Payne's expertise for why people would turn off their phones to be undetected. But this person who's supposed to be this forensic genius who wants to help people learn cloud-based forensics and data turned off his phone after leaving his apartment, after his location movement had already registered? Probably not.
and remained off until approximately 4:48 a.m. on Sunday, the 13th of November.
See, this is where people started hearing this, that Alina girl said they could hear this echo in the courtroom and they didn't know what it was or where it came from. She thought, according to her, that's whenever people were going to end up getting like kicked out and stuff. It stops after a few minutes. So y'all are just going to have to sort of like deal with it for a minute.
The state's evidence would include a trial, video surveillance of a business on the Moscow-Pullman Highway, just across the state line from Moscow. It would show a vehicle matching the description of the defendant's Hyundai Elantra entering Moscow at approximately 3:02 a.m.
So this is supposed to be Floyd's cannabis shop, I guess. The one that we already heard a year and a half, 2 years ago from Ann Taylor, that car is not Bryan Kohberger's car. See, because a long time ago, even the people that are like hella guilters had issues with this portion of the PCA because none of the timing added up. The way that they were saying the car moved, the directions, the timestamps, none of it made any sense. And it was already off to us a long time ago before everyone went stupid. So again, where's the proof of this? Where is the proof of this? Ann Taylor has already come out and said, experts are saying no. Well, I'm not going to trust the FBI expert who's giving the state all this information because the first car he was looking for was a Nissan. And then where they actually put the information for the car, got the actual information for the car, was a security camera, not even at King Road. The King Road car, they couldn't validate or verify. They've already made that very clear. They got the information for what that car could be from the Ridge Road cameras. So how am I supposed to be okay and confident in your evidence if you're telling me that the car that you put right here, you can't tell me what that car is, but you can tell me what this car is over here, and now you're just guessing it's the same car. How am I supposed to be okay with that being solid? I'm not. And no one with a brain should be.
Compiled surveillance that the investigators put together from businesses and residents then show the defendant's car, the white Elantra.
I wonder who has access to this because I just realized the judge's camera shook a little bit.
As I've described, circling the 1122 King Road area, that neighborhood, starting around 3:30 or so in the morning.
3:30 or so in the morning. Or so, sir.
Comes into the immediate area of 1122 King Road, which is actually on a dead end, and then leaves several times. At approximately 4:05 that morning.
They can't even prove it's the same car driving in and out. If you can't tell me what the car was on the cameras you're trying to tell me are involved in this crime, then you can't validate that the other cars are the same car. You've already proven that you're not trustworthy, that you're not credible in your job. I'm not going to believe any of that. Come on.
Defense car had entered that area, was leaving, stopped at the intersection of King and Queen Road, did a U-turn, and the state's evidence would show that defendant's car came back and parked behind and above the 1122 King Road residence.
Okay, that's like the first like new thing that we have heard. How do they have that information? How would they have that information? They did not know that information this entire time. They haven't. They didn't find anything back there to give them any clues all these months and all these years. And now they want to say that they definitively know where he parked. How? What magic bean did you grow to get this information out of? Where did this come from? You're guessing because it makes your timeline look good? Because you sure didn't know where the hell they parked up until now. All of a sudden, you're saying a bunch of crazy shit, and we don't have any sort of confession showing any sort of details. So where did this suddenly come from? Where's the proof of that? Oh, they don't have to prove it. This is all hearsay. Y'all realize that, right? All of this is hearsay because they're not having to prove their stance.
The state believes that its evidence would then show that
they believe the evidence would then show, not that it's the fact that this is what is going to show that happened. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, but maybe it will. Maybe.
The defendant entered the residence of 1122 through the kitchen sliding door on the back side of the residence, which is the side of the residence that would face the area above where the defendant's car was parked.
That Papa Roger's been in here for a long time, guys. It's not him.
Defendant entered the residence, went to the 3rd floor, and with a knife, killed Madison Mogen. And
Yeah. So then how come Steve said that the whoever was in there didn't have to go upstairs? Do we forget that, Billy boy? Or maybe how Dylan said that she thought that it was one of Ethan and Xana's friends just leaving for the night. We forget that part too. Have we forgotten how y'all haven't told us a damn thing about Ethan and Xana, and subsequently not even Bethany? Everything about Miss Exculpatory Evidence that was also at the party that night, y'all have been real quiet about. Prove it, Billy. Prove it.
Kaylee Goncalves. The defendant, as
Look how Bryan is looking dead at Thompson's face. I just realized he's like literally staring at him as he's reading this.
he left that room for whatever reason, ended up leaving, or the sheath for a K-bar knife was left on the bed next to Madison Mogen's body.
And you have no proof whatsoever that it's the one that you claim that he purchased, because you've yet to tell us it had the logo. You've yet to say a word. The majority of people believe that that was there, and it was Maddie's and or Kaylee's that was possibly used for self-defense, and maybe the blade got out of their hand and was taken from them. Because that's possible.
And I can jump ahead. That sheath was tested by the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab, and single source male DNA was found on the snap of that sheath.
Yeah, and how many other single source male DNAs do you have that are not identified? Or what about the lead suspect that y'all were actually looking at before you got a phone call with no information but a name, and then you suddenly forgot all about the guy that you were looking for? Or about the 2 DNA samples that came back completely unknown that needed follow-up that you shelved until you needed to get back to them? What about that? Nothing? Figures.
As well as blood from both Kaylee and Madison and other trace evidence. But it's important.
Notice other trace evidence. Other trace evidence. Meaning there's something else on that damn sheet they're not telling us about. They apparently have a snap. They're admitting that the blood on the back of the damn knife sheath that we didn't even know existed, but obviously, duh, if it's where it was found, it's going to have their, blood on it. Now they want to admit that, and also other trace evidence. What's the other trace evidence, Billy boy? Somebody else's DNA? Somebody else that maybe also matched DNA under maybe somebody's fingernail clippings or somewhere else in the house? The fact that we can have all these unknown answers with multiple people having their lives taken and only one suspect, I'm floored by the just blatant stupidity.
No single source male DNA was on the snap of that sheet. The state's evidence would show that Xana Kernodle was still awake at this time. In fact, had taken a DoorDash order not long before this started.
Had taken a DoorDash order? Honey, none of your evidence proves that. None of your evidence proves that. We've already seen your self-authenticating records. The DoorDash account was Ethan's. It was Ethan's. There's no proof whatsoever when it comes to proof of life of Xana at all. According to the self-authenticating records, the actual evidence that was submitted, 3:16 is the time that Xana was last on TikTok, not 4:12. A whole hour. They've lied to us about the DoorDash this entire time. And it wasn't until recently that we were told that after 2 o'clock, Xana and Ethan still were not home, and that there was discussions of them going out to apparently get food, which I don't believe at all. I think it was for something else if it was anything. But again, what time did Xana and Ethan actually get home? And why are the Chapins and so many other people just okay with not having that answer? Pretty gross.
Room was not on the 3rd floor. It was on the 2nd floor on the west side. As the defendant was either coming down the stairs or leaving, he encountered Xana.
So they don't even know. He either whenever he went down the stairs or whenever he was leaving. You still don't know. You're literally making this up as you go. You don't know anything. You have no facts.
And he ended up killing her also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend.
Also with a large knife. So not the same one, like y'all have been acting the whole time. So now y'all are trying to like switch up the verbiage here. That still doesn't make sense. Prove it was Xana. Prove that it was Xana that actually went to get the DoorDash, because you're not going to mention the Dasher. And it was Ethan's account. So what proof do you have that Xana was even alive at this point? You don't. You're not even releasing the times of death, which wouldn't be hard to do if you had real people with brains working the case. Science exists to be able to tell us this. There's math that can be done in order to take the temperature of the room and the humidity and all the things with the temperature of the body and all the stuff and figure it out. Or maybe it's because ChatGPT can't answer it for you. You just refuse to do the work.
Was
So
asleep
pathetic.
in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well.
How do we have proof that Ethan was actually asleep? Because according to Steve Goncalves, whatever happened down there was one hell of a fight. And Ethan's a big boy. And remember, Dylan just thought it was one of Ethan and Xana's friends leaving for the night after hearing singing and music upstairs. I hate all of this.
With a large fixed-blade knife. Each victim suffered multiple wounds. I will state for the record that there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation.
Now, I will say this about that psychotic freaking Facebook group weirdo that Drunk Turkey had on his show the other day. She was getting mad that they said this. He was getting angry that there was no essay involved. Like, she needed there to be essay involved in this, or else it just didn't sit right with her. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Go and just listen to like the first maybe 15 minutes of her talking or so. She's crazy. And according to comments that I got and some stuff I researched myself, she was kicked out of the big Facebook group and nobody wants to talk about her and any of her drama. But she was mad. She threw a whole hissy fit on Drunk Turkey show about this right here, about what Thompson just said about there not being any essay. Like a true freak.
There were two other roommates in the house, and they were already asleep. During the course of this, one of those roommates awoke, looked out her door, not knowing what was going on.
She awoke? She was never asleep. Again, per their own timeline, they have given us everything. The state came out and gave us everything, and the defense and the state went back and forth with each other for months and months and months. Dylan was never asleep. She was adding a contact to her phone at 3:51. She might have gone into her bedroom around 3:20, but she was adding somebody to her phone at 3:51. You are awake and pressing multiple buttons on your device in order to add someone as a contact. You're not so groggy 8 minutes later that you're like, oh my God, what's happening? No, that's not how the freaking world works. That's not how it works. The entire time. The entire freaking time. Taking photos, taking videos, doing edits, going on Snapchat, going on Snap Maps. All the time in her head, apparently, we're supposed to believe she just thought Xana had overdosed on alcohol. You still decided to leave her there for 8 hours. You and Bethany both. Raised in two different households. Collectively pathetic. I don't understand why I'm supposed to feel sorry for them. Someone make me understand, like I'm 5, why I'm supposed to feel sorry for them.
And saw the defendant, who was dressed in black with black balaclava on, holding some sort of container in his hand.
See?
And she saw him.
That's not true, because according to what we've already heard, it was a vacuum type object, not a container. And at this point, it's a fireman with a vacuum, not a guy in black carrying a container. So I don't know if his brain just made him slip off the wrong words or what he's trying to do here. But according to the grand jury testimony and the interview information, it was a fireman carrying a vacuum type object, not a guy in all black carrying a container. Those are two completely different things. And whenever she's discussing the person wearing all black in the interviews, not once does she mention anything being carried. It's not until the physical appearance of the creature, the person, whatever, changes into a fireman that suddenly they're carrying something. It's like he forgets that like the whole world already knows all of this. All of this has already come out. And the fact that Judge Hippler is just sitting there listening to all this, knowing how much of a lie it is. Like, was this the whole point, to get him to like admit to a lot of stuff that's just not true so that all of the falsities and the perjury could be what actually gets discussed, appealed? I don't understand. He's not even giving us the correct timeline. He's lying to us about the timeline, to our faces, to the victims' families' faces. Disgusting.
Sheath was tested by the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab, and single source male DNA was found on the snap of that sheath. As
I did
well
not go back
as
that far, did
blood
I?
from both Kaylee and Madison.
I went back that far? Not even kidding. I didn't go back that far. Yeah, you see, I'm pissed. Where were
About
we?
9:30, Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend,
Okay.
was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well with a large fixed blade knife.
So we're not going to talk about the carving? No mention of the carving. Okay.
Each victim suffered multiple wounds. I will state for the record that there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation. There were two other roommates in the house, and they were already asleep. During the
I forgot how pathetic this was. Billy boy. Santa is better at telling stories than this. This is just a travesty. There's no proof either one of them were asleep. We don't know what the hell Bethany was doing because, again, everything when it comes to Little Miss Exculpatory and Ethan and Xana that were at the frat party with Little Miss Exculpatory, everything about them is hushed. And I'm supposed to not think that the university is doing some crazy shit? Y'all literally made us focus on Kaylee and Maddie the entire time. You literally stuffed their story down our throats until it's all that we paid attention to. Then when it came to Dylan, she's the main one you wanted us focusing on. Everything about Bethany is just in the back. Everything about Xana and Ethan is just shh. No. Kiss my fat ass, bro. No.
course of this, one of those roommates awoke, looked out her door, not knowing what was going on.
Lies.
And saw the defendant, who was dressed in black with black balaclava on, holding some sort of container in his hand. And she saw him leave the house
Wrong.
through the direction of the kitchen to where that sliding door is that I mentioned before.
Wrong. The PCA that he's reading from, let's be so for real, literally says whatever she's claiming to have seen walked in that direction. They literally are assuming based on that and the camera showing this car taking off that that's whenever the person left out the back door. There's no proof. She didn't actually see anyone leave the house at all. I mean, she probably did, honestly, because she's lying. So probably did. But this is a lie. Her own recollection, according to the police, was they just went in that direction. She never saw them exit. So we're lying again. Okay.
At approximately 4:20 that morning, so this would have been 15 minutes or so later, Finn's car
Is this shit scribbled down on a damn legal pad? I just realized that he just flipped a legal pad. I better never hear anybody complain about me and my post-it notes ever again. Oh my God.
seen on a surveillance camera for 1112 King Road, which is immediately next door to the west of 1122, leaving the area at a high rate of speed. And if the
Were they? Because again, we have no proof that that car belongs to crap. Even they have no proof that car belongs to anything. They can't actually name the car in the footage, and they know that. They've admitted that themselves. So again, he's basing this off of what? Nothing. He's basing this literally off of nothing. Off of a story that was told by a girl who obviously was too inebriated based off of the amount of alcohol and other things that she partook in that day to even give a real story. Yet, you know, she was coherent enough to stay awake all night, and do all kinds of editing and stuff with photos and videos and whatnot, you know, and look for a job and add new contacts to her phone because, you know, you got to have besties. I cannot wait for the rest of it to be released. And I swear, I'm going to yell the loudest and the most ridiculous I've ever yelled if we don't get all of it. Because they're not about to come out here and give us text messages starting with these morons around 4:19 or 4:21 or whatever it is, and then just expect for us to believe that there's nothing before that whenever she was adding a contact to her phone at 3:51. And apparently, according to, again, third-party, non-verified friend of DoorDasher, somebody was in the window as the DoorDasher was walking up and staring Bryan in the eyeballs as he drove by. It's all just such clown work.
court were to see that, or anybody in this courtroom would see that, you can see the car almost loses control as it makes the corner, heads north, and then turns.
That's not what I saw. I didn't see anybody almost lose control of that vehicle. And I'd also like to know, what's this whole story about apparently the car almost hitting someone? Because if it's supposed to be the dasher that he apparently almost ran into or whatever, the timeline is way off. Way off. So I love how Dateline just like says that and then like just left us with nothing. Because who was that? Who was out walking around at 4:20? Not the dasher. Couldn't have been the dasher. So you meaning to tell me like all these people were walking around, these people were looking him dead in his eyeballs as he's like driving around the house to get ready to go, and he still decides like, yep, she looked right at me, bro. She could probably literally tell them down to my crooked nose what I look like in a sketch, but I'm gonna go ahead and go in.
To go south on Walenta, which is one of the only ways to get out of that part of town.
One of the only ways. Remember what the PCA said. We made a big deal about this. It literally says the cameras this way doesn't show anything. So because of the lack of footage to the left, the car had to have gone to the right, even though there's no footage that way either. Don't believe me? Go read it yourself. That's what it says.
The evidence would show that following that, the defendant in his Elantra drove south of Moscow. We know that he drove on the back roads because there are surveillance cameras on the main highways, Highway 95, that would have picked up the defendant's car if he'd gone that route.
See, he's about to say it. There's cameras this way. They didn't pick up the car. Therefore, because of the lack of evidence this way, he had to have gone that way, even though there's no evidence that way either. Everything when it comes to the Sosay route they're trying to claim that he took is based off of, again, a 10 to 15 mile radius cell phone tower ping and footage where the car is coming back into Pullman already. That has nothing to do with the trek back, literally at all. And if they literally only had the car leaving the apartment and then turning and they got it and somewhere in the middle, they got mixed up, one white car could have gone that way with another white car going that way. And they might have missed it. I don't see how, but none of the timing matches up. There's a million different things wrong here.
And they did not show the defendant's car on that route during the time. So we know that he went through a variety of back roads in very rural, isolated part of Latah County. About 4:48 that morning, the defendant's phone comes back on.
You mean drives back into service? See, he seems to also forget that all these correspondents that work for all these big, huge networks were out there. The same way they're all down in Kerrville right now, they were in Pullman forever. and they would drive out to the park area and have to come back into Pullman to be able to report their news because they didn't have any service. So did he turn his phone back on, or did he just drive back into the network area? Show me the proof. Oh, I forgot. You refused to.
And the evidence will show that that phone was located south of Moscow, likely at a side road intersection with Highway 95.
What was that word he just said? Likely? We are almost 3 years in, and we're still hearing words that are not definitive and concrete. Likely. Unbelievable.
From there, the defendant's phone activity tracks heading back north towards Pullman, Washington, where the defendant lived. About 5:26, starting approximately 5:26, various surveillance cameras in Pullman, Washington pick up the defendant's vehicle as he enters Pullman from the south and heads north and slightly west towards his apartment, where he arrived at approximately 5:30 in the morning.
Again, Towers, show me the footage of the car driving all of that. You can't sit there and tell me not one house had a damn camera on that entire road that could have seen a car driving by. Not a single one. Miss me with it.
Later that morning, this Sunday, the 13th of November of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone returned to the area of King Road. We don't know exactly what he did, but it returned to that area. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning.
We don't know exactly what he did. And just like all the pings before, they have no proof he went back here. This was the one portion of the entire timeline, and if you've been here from the beginning, you know damn well that this is correct. This is the one portion of the timeline that I was still willing to hear more about. Because now we're in daylight. Now it's 9 o'clock in the morning. And we were told in the very beginning that a neighbor walking their dog said that that front door was open around 8:45. So whenever this portion came out, I was like, damn. They're saying he got there at this amount of time, stood around, like hung around for this specific amount of minutes, and then went all the way back to his apartment. That's insanely specific. I am intrigued by that. And I've mentioned it 1,000 times. 1,001 freaking times. But now the self-authenticating evidence comes out, and all they have, Jesus Christ, all they have is a similar looking car driving south on 95 at 9:12 in the morning. You're telling me all these cameras that you're trying to tell me picked up this car that you can't identify in the King Road neighborhood didn't also pick up the same freaking car driving around between 9 and 9:30 for you to be able to definitively tell us that the car was in the neighborhood, and I'm supposed to believe you, Mr. 20,000 freaking vehicles that look like this in the area? What? How come no one, or at least how come a lot of people are just okay with this bullshit? Because they even mention that he goes to an ATM, and they do mention that they have his face on the ATM cameras. They don't give us a location. But because there is one ATM location for his Washington Bank Trust Bank or whatever the frick, right there off of Highway 95 in Moscow, a lot of people are just assuming that that's the one that he was at, forgetting that there's one in Pullman that's actually like on the way that he would have taken out of town if he was going down to Clarkston. So prove he was over there. You're sitting there telling me at daylight hours on the highway, you still can't read a plate? You still can't read a plate, an insignia? You can't see anything to tell you who's in that car at 9 o'clock in the morning? No.
He's there for about 10 minutes and then returned to his Pullman residence.
And see, that is sort of like high traffic tower movement. The way that the traffic towers move. And again, where's the footage of him leaving his apartment that morning? Do they have that on there? Footage of him actually taking those exact same roads? Do they have that? I remember looking at the paper to see the 912 portion and a couple of other things. Maybe I should go ahead and pull it up because now I'm curious if they have the timestamps of him leaving the This isn't it. If they have the timestamps of him leaving WSU again that morning. Because you're in the daylight hours. You have no excuse for telling me maybe, possibly. No. You're at 9 o'clock in the morning. That sun's big and bright. You should be able to see on these damn cameras at 9 o'clock in the morning what's going on. They don't. They don't. They have the car coming back into Pullman, Washington at 5:30 in the morning. And then they just have a vehicle matching the description of vehicle 1 is seen traveling southbound on Highway 95 at 9:12. They don't show anything of daylight footage of his car leaving his apartment. We're just going to jump all those hours and then just get away with not telling us that the car was seen leaving WSU again. And then they jump from 9:12:59 all the way to 12:34 whenever he's at Costco in Clarkston. Look at all of the information that's missing. And we're supposed to believe that this means anything? Right here, I'm telling you right now, the 9 to 9:30 is a bullshit cell phone tower ping. And this right here was not his car. This should say there was a plate. They saw Bryan inside of it. There's no description in here making this even make me believe that it was his car. Where's the information of him leaving WSU? Where's your dot to dots? No.
The state's evidence will show evidence taken from the defendant's phone that he took a selfie of himself on his phone in what appears to be the bathroom of his Pullman apartment with a thumbs up.
So what? What's your point? You go and you play in a band all the time on the weekends, Mr. Cherub Cheeks. So what does it matter if he took a damn selfie? How is that evidence? How in the world is somebody taking a selfie with no cuts, no blood, no nothing, not holding the damn knife or nothing? How is that evidence that matters here? Honestly, the selfie even being like presented doesn't make any sense, especially since now we've seen two different versions of it. In one, he looks like a damn sickly ass vampire. And in the other one, he suddenly has like the need to shave and freckles. It's very odd. It's very freaking weird.
The defendant's phone then went to the Lewiston-Clarkston Valley, approximately 30 miles south of Moscow and Pullman.
Yeah.
And the defendant is actually seen with his car at various businesses down there. This area.
What does this have to do with anything, though?
Is the confluence of the Clearwater River and the Snake River. Lewiston is Idaho's seaport. Large bodies of moving water down there.
So?
In addition to tracing the defendant's activities, as I've just outlined, on the 13th and leading up to the 13th.
As I just outlined. You didn't outline shit, Billy boy. You didn't outline shit. Damn.
The state's evidence will show that following Sunday, November 13th, 2022, business records show that the defendant began searching for a K-bar knife and a K-bar knife sheath. As the state believes,
is that true?
Replaced the one that was left at the scene of the murders.
Is that timeline true about the 13th? Does it say the time? I think Dateline did say something about that.
Lewiston-Clarkston Valley, approximately 30 miles south of Moscow and Pullman. And the defendant is actually seen with his car at various businesses.
I think we did hear that.
This area
on Dateline
is the confluence of the Clearwater River and the Snake River. Lewiston is Idaho's seaport.
But I'm going to
large
need
bodies of moving water down there. In addition to tracing the defendant's activities, as I've just outlined on the 13th and leading up to the 13th, the state's evidence will show that following Sunday, November 13th, 2022, business records show that the defendant began searching for a K-bar knife and a K-bar knife sheath.
And that was that
The
day?
state believes to replace the one that was left at the scene of the murders.
They're going to need to show me that.
Also will suggest that there were at least attempts by the defendant to delete or alter his purchase history.
See, and that's why I have problems with it. You can't do that. You cannot do that. You cannot go in there and delete your purchase history because regardless of what you try to do, I know for a fact I can't go in and delete it on my phone. I've gone in on my app and tried to delete stuff to see what the frick they're talking about. I don't find a way to delete my purchases. Somebody who knows about forensics and knows about this kind of stuff is going to know that you surface level deleting something doesn't mean that it gets taken off of like the servers at the company. So there's that. Now I really want the time of the Amazon search on the 13th. I really want the time for that. Because if it was later on in the evening after all the rumors and all the talk and everybody had already been talking about what they saw was going around, we already know that the information got over to WSU like that. So if it was like later on in the evening after he'd already sort of like heard stuff and he was maybe just looking up stuff to see like if it was sort of similar to what he had or if it just whatever, just to take a look at something, I don't know. But I do know that they tried to say that he searched the crimes itself before the 911 call ever happened, but he actually first searched the crimes on the 16th of November. So if it turns out that there's like a search for a K-bar prior to the 911 call, yeah, you're not going to really be able to like make me not look at that. So I really wish that, I hope we get that information because we need that information.
Later that week, the state's evidence will show that Mr. Kohberger went to what we would call DMV, motor vehicle licensing here in Idaho, in Pullman to change his car registration from Pennsylvania to Washington.
Yeah, that's normal. It was due.
That's of note because Pennsylvania cars do not require a front license plate.
The damn car has a front license plate. The damn car has a front license plate. I mean, I will pull it up for you again. From the state's document. I need the one that's 50 pages long. Is it this one? Yes, it is. Pretty sure it's this one. I might be wrong. Nope, it's this one. If you turn the page and you zoom in really big on this one right here. Like, it's so ridiculous how much you can see it. You can see, well, let me draw. Okay. Starting like right here, this goes up, this goes over, and this starts to go down. There's only one thing that attaches to the front of a vehicle that makes that shape. What is it? What is it? A license plate. So I don't know how they can sit here and know that we can see all these things. We can see all of this stuff that they have placed in here for us to look at. They put this in here. And according to what they're giving us, there's a plate there. Like, even from here, even when it's not even that like zoomed in, you can still see like where it's blurred right here. Like something is supposed to be there. Now, how are you supposed to sit there and tell me that you can actually tell if there's a plate on the car when it's coming up on the camera like this with its lights like that? We watched the footage. You can't tell crap. You can't tell anything. And the fact that they're sitting here still lying, flabbergasted.
The vehicle seen on the survey.
Not shocked, but still flabbergasted.
And its car showed it didn't have a front license plate on it. At the time of the traffic stop by Deputy Duke in August, it was Pennsylvania plate, no front license plate.
Okay, and then if that comes out and the front of Bryan Kohberger's car is shown on Deputy Duke's camera and it doesn't have a license plate, that's more proof it wasn't Bryan's car because that damn car in the state's own evidence has a plate. I cannot wait for FOIA. FOIA time, FOIA party. It's going to be so fun. God.
Mr. Kohberger proceeded to finish his semester.
Did he almost say cope? Kopak has another video for another day, really soon here.
Studies at Washington State University and returned to Pennsylvania for the holidays. Law enforcement at this point were aware of Mr. Kohberger, had been accessing information about him, were trying to find him. They located him in Pennsylvania.
Wrong. They located him in Colorado first, right? some reader in Colorado, and then they pulled him over in Indiana twice. So that's not true either. They can't even be honest about the smallest pieces.
And they conducted what's called a trash pull during the nighttime hours. Agents of the FBI who assisted immensely with this case.
See, I want the truth about the trash. Ann Taylor, whenever they talked about this in court, made it okay. She said they made it sound as if it was some sort of like crazy covert operation, whatever. Then she was like, but that's crap, basically, because it was like their own trash truck that went in for like a normal trash run, but then like only picked up that trash can, like went into the neighborhood on a normal day. So the trash can would be at the road. They took the trash, they went out of the neighborhood, and then the way that the scientist guy that was interviewed on the stand during the closed session in January, he basically, or was it a girl? Regardless, they basically were like, we were asked what items of trash would be the best for DNA. And then they basically got like an entire bag of trash sent to them, is the way that they made it sound. Like it wasn't just a few choice pieces. An entire freaking trash bag got sent over there. So I don't know why. I don't know which one's true. We're just going to put it like that. I don't know which one's true because he's still acting like it was some sort of covert in the middle of the night. Oh, just going up there and stealing some trash. That's not what we're being told though. And again, I ask, did the Kohbergers not have cameras? Do they not have security cameras at all? I just find it odd if they don't.
Working with the sanitation department back in this neighborhood in Pennsylvania, took trash that had been set out on the street for collection, sent the contents of that from the Pennsylvania residents of the defendant's parents to the Idaho State Forensic Laboratory, where the lab experts there were able to identify DNA on a Q-tip as coming from the father of the person whose DNA was found on the knife sheath.
Q-tip.
It was next to Madison Mogen's body in the bed.
A Q-tip. Like a swab? Or was it like an Equate brand? Is there a way to figure that out? And I also find it really interesting that this is the approach that they took, because we find out that they actually did have Kohberger's DNA in that trash. It was mixed in with female DNA, but that it was Kohberger's profile. At the end of the day, they tested it all out and it was Kohberger's profile. So why they didn't just go with, I mean, I get it was a mixed sample but they can separate it. That's like the whole point of the science. They do some liquidy stuff and they separate the DNA out. So why they didn't just use that, I don't understand, because it's not like it was two males mixed together. It was a male and a female, very well distinguishable from each other. So again, I don't know why they didn't just go straight up with, we found the exact match in the trash. Why did they go with, oh, it's the dad's? I've had that question ever since they told us about the actual samples in there.
Subsequently, an arrest warrant was issued here in Idaho, and a search warrant was issued in the state of Pennsylvania with the assistance not only of the FBI, but the Pennsylvania State Police. Mr. Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home to return to Idaho. Upon his return to Idaho, a DNA sample was taken from him.
That's not the only one. The feds did swabs of all 4 quadrants when they got him to Monroe County. The feds did, just like the feds did the forensic download of his phone. The feds orchestrated the trash pull. Brett Payne himself said no one associated with Moscow Police Department stepped foot inside of that gated community. Not just stepped foot into the Kohberger home. They didn't even go to the location. Brett Payne was watching all of this shit go down through a camera on his phone, watching drone feed. And they met up at a command base. It's just all wild. Get right this crap, bro.
DNA found on the knife sheath next to Maddie's body at the crime scene.
See, there's still people looking over there. Like, I don't care who you are. If you're sitting there as a grown-ass woman in your mid-20s at this point, practically, whining and making all these noises to get everybody's attention in the middle of a court hearing. I don't care who you are in the court hearing. You should be escorted out if that's the case. All of it is just highly theatrical. It's all the Hollywood that Steve said it wasn't. Let's be for real.
I can tell the court, and the public, the weapon itself, the knife, has not yet been recovered. I can tell the court that the defendant's apartment in Pullman was searched, as well as his office. Spartan would be a kind characterization. There was virtually nothing there. Nothing of evidentiary value was found. And of course,
Nothing of evidentiary value was found. So I don't know why Inside Edition all of a sudden wanted to start lying, saying that Murphy's hair was found inside Bryan Kohberger's apartment. Like, we've known forever now that there was a piece of paper that came out that is on the public filings showing all of the devices and all the different things that was tested. Nothing. No connections. So again, we have the prosecuting agency standing up and saying, his phone pinged 20-something times over here, but we can't actually put him at the house. There's so many people that live over there, bro. It could be anybody. And now this. Again, no one can say, oh, it's just Ann Taylor. You can't trust what she says about there not being any connections in his apartment. You going to trust it now? I mean, they've said it 1,000 times. He even said that he wasn't stalking them, but you still just don't want to take nobody's word for it because you can't believe what's said in court. Yeah, you can. It's court. That's where all the truth comes out. The irony and the hypocrisy and the just the gross human brains that are in this whole thing, it makes me very happy that I choose to stay to myself in the real world, because there's no way that I could deal with the kind of stupidity here on the internet out in the real world and still be a free person. I'd be in jail. I'd be in jail.
we're now talking 6-8 weeks after the time of the killings. In Pennsylvania, the defendant's car was seized, and it was actually pretty much disassembled.
Yeah, that's how they do it.
And it also had been cleaned. There was a bucket of cleaner right beside it.
Show me the pictures. Show me this bucket of cleaner. Does bucket of cleaner mean a dry bucket with a sponge in it and maybe some car soap sitting next to it somewhere? Because y'all said he cleaned it at some car wash someplace, or some Fed lie rumor said that he cleaned it at some car wash place somewhere. But we haven't seen any proof of that. No photos, no videos, no location, none of that stuff. So was he really sitting out there next to a cleaning bucket? Or was the bucket just in the garage because that's what's in the garages? I'd love to know.
I think we can all look to our own cars, in those compartments in the doors. You can try to keep them clean where you put stuff. There's always some degree of crud in there.
There's things for that. And people that are hella OCD don't allow crud to get in there. So there's that. My car, petri dish. I got kids. I got dogs. We take the cat with us sometimes. It's nasty. Okay. This dude was a single man that didn't have, well, I don't know. They said something about a dog. Ann Taylor did. But as far as we know, he's OCD, germaphobe to a certain point. I highly doubt that he just had a whole bunch of nasty sitting up in his car. There's vacuums. There's this slimy stuff that you can roll around in your whatever, in your dash and in your middle console, and it gets all the nasty out. There's all kinds of things to make you look like you're a professional cleaner. So just because he's jealous of how somebody gets their stuff clean doesn't mean that they're a killer. It just means they know how to clean better than you do, Billy boy.
Spotless. Vince's car had been meticulously cleaned inside.
That's what OCD people do.
And the state,
and on top of that, we've already been told by neighbors that he's up at all hours of the night vacuuming, cleaning. So this is not out of character. Nothing that he has said is proving anything. It's amazing that this man's been a lawyer for so long. This is so stupid.
would present to the jury that was part of the defendant's plan in covering up this. The defendant has studied crime. In fact, he did a detailed paper on crime scene processing when he was.
So how many thousands of people that are literally in this system right now? How many hundreds of them just in Boise? How many just sitting in that courtroom? Next.
On his pre-doctorate degrees, and he had that knowledge and skill. So, Your Honor, at the end, the state submits the evidence that I've given just a quick overview of, and that to present in court would consume weeks, which the state is prepared to do and has been prepared to do.
Yeah, show me the camera footage. Show me the footage of him leaving WSU at 9-something in the morning and the daylight footage from 11:12 that would show his car. Show me something. And if not 11:12, show me Ridge Road. Can you? You can't. You have a car driving south on 95 going who knows where, not 1122 King Road. Or else you'd have it. You'd have had this. You'd have had this before the feds called you on the 19th. You would have had Bryan Kohberger's name, his information, and had his ass arrested within a few days if he was on camera anywhere near that house during the daylight hours. And you didn't. You were looking 25 miles towards this opposite direction, not even looking where all of this ended up actually taking you, because you didn't actually go after anything. You listened to the feds and reverse engineered this entire thing for your own lazy ass benefit. And now your lead detective is working for the University of Idaho. Convenient, isn't it? Convenient. I don't think he has much else to say. We're going to listen for a few more minutes.
Would show that as the defendant has just admitted and pleaded guilty on November 13th, 2022. Excuse me.
Yeah, take a drink like you actually give a shit.
Kohberger entered the residence of 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. He did that with the intent to kill. We will not represent that he intended to commit all of the murders that he did that night, but we know that
we cannot contend that he intended to commit all of the murders that he committed that night, but we're going to charge him with premeditation for all 4? You just contradicted yourself in open court.
that is what resulted. And that he then killed intentionally, willfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice forethought. Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle.
I don't believe a damn
Thank you.
vibrato in his throat. Full of shit. Full of shit. Unbelievably full of shit. Look, I don't rub my stuff off. I'm so aggravated. How many things did we hear that were bullshit? How many lies? Did anybody take count? Anybody take count of all the lies and all the bullshit? Stupid. Dumb. They were not asleep. They were wide awake discussing what was happening. Steve Goncalves knows this. He's the one who saw the messages. There's got to be a way for all of us to come together in this and figure something out. Even if the end result is that Bryan is guilty, where's the victim's stories? Where's the proof? And again, I will ask, what time did Ethan and Xana get home? This is disgusting. I really hate this. And yeah, a lot of it has to do with the fact that I don't think that Bryan is the one who did it. But regardless, what about Kaylee and Maddie and Xana and Ethan and the truth about what really happened to them and the order in which it happened and the real reason for why it happened in the first place? What about all of that? Why does none of that suddenly matter to the court? It's all stupid. I absolutely hate everything. It just doesn't make any sense. Well, see, that's the problem. That's the problem. They probably were. But why is the court telling us that they weren't home after 2? that Xana and Ethan hadn't gotten home yet. See, that's the problem. They're not giving us facts. And they've also, again, been telling us this entire time that Xana is the one who ordered and did everything with the DoorDash, but then the proof comes out and it's Ethan's account. And now Xana's not on TikTok at 4:12. She's actually on TikTok last at 3:16, which is an entire hour difference. So make that make sense. Make that make sense. See, this is what a lot of people do believe. They believe that they were already deceased by the time Kaylee and Maddie got home. One of my theories is actually maybe that they got home and the cleanup wasn't done and the girls were trying to maybe get them out of the house to distract them, meaning text Eric, see if he's still driving around to go get food, maybe if it's innocent enough of it being to get food. But what if they just didn't want to leave? And because they didn't leave in order for the cleanup and the rest of it to finish, then they ended up also being collateral damage. Because again, Dylan just thought it was one of Ethan and Xana's friends leaving for the night. Dylan was adding contacts to her phone, not 10 minutes before everything went stupid. No one is being honest here. The only person up until now who's been consistent is the defense. This guilty plea left of a move doesn't make any sense. And we sit here and we just listened back to what they planned to present. How many sentences out of his face were lies? Just makes me sick. Like, how are we supposed to just like let all of these questions just fade away into nothing when nothing was answered? And now they're backpedaling on their own facts. They themselves proved with their own timeline that Dylan and Bethany were not asleep. This is so gross. It really is just so gross. I do too. I do too. He put a 20+ year career on the line to work for the defense for the first time in his entire career and for free. And doubled down on what he had to say very recently after a crazy person came out trying to say that Cyrus wasn't even on the case anymore. He came out with newly signed and dated documents, doubling down on what he has to say just to be called a conspiracy theorist in court by this judge who can't keep his hands off his face long enough to even pay attention and doesn't care about all of the lies being said on the record. I don't understand. Stupidity. It's also stupid. I gave you a video with an answer a couple of days ago. I gave you 31 people who did the exact same thing. He's known from day one she lied to his face. The story has and always will be Jack Ducour walked down there after being told that there were police at Kaylee's house. He was woken up and went down there. As soon as he got down there, he heard Dylan on the phone telling the exact same story that apparently she told Emily. He tells Steve Goncalves this. The memorial happens. You know, the ones where they didn't show their faces. Steve goes to ask them questions. Bethany jets. Won't even stick around. Dylan lies to his face. I was asleep. I didn't hear or see anything. He instantly knew then she was lying. Then comes the PCA, proving she saw and heard plenty. Don't you think that as time went by, he didn't learn more and more and more about what she heard and saw? And he still comes out, even after having conversations in private about knowing what Bethany and Dylan were discussing while it was happening, he still comes out and publicly defends her. I don't understand that logic. I don't understand that logic. It just makes no sense. People can lie confidently, especially somebody with autism that's already pretty much level and monotone. So that doesn't really mean crap. You see, that's another thing a lot of people aren't taking into consideration. They're saying that he's all cold and oh my God, with the way that he's answering the questions. Everyone has described him like that from like the beginning. Anyone who's ever told us about him, besides like meeting up with that one guy whenever he was hiking and being like a little bit too excited about seeing someone that he recognized, this is pretty much the way that he's always talked. It's been pretty monotone. So I can't really take the way that he answered questions with his medical diagnosis and everything that we've already been told and actually let that hold any weight. To me, that's normal. So they didn't prove anything. And they lied. They lied in the courtroom after already coming into court and telling us all of these contradictory statements. They now want to try to backtrack everything and go back to everyone was asleep and didn't know crap about crap. No. And it doesn't matter that there's a gag order. He was asked to present the evidence that they would be submitting at the trial. That was it. So I don't know. I don't get it. There had to have been something else going on here. And if you really think about it, why would it have gone any other way? If who a lot of people believe is really in charge of what's happening here, why would it have gone any other way? Especially knowing now, think about the freaking timeline, guys. This information comes out finally to where we get some info about the damn DoorDash driver. People start digging, find out who she is, her initials match. And now there's a huge question when it comes to the people that were actually being contacted, because MM in those contacts might not be Madison Mogen. It might be, what's her face? Molly McDaniel instead of Madison Mogen. And then she's on camera telling Brett Payne, I'm friends with Bill Thompson. And conveniently, right after that, everything goes to shit. And we're not supposed to take any credence on that. Yeah. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it at all. But I'm about to get off of here. Let me go through all these colory thingies I have because I have not been paying attention whatsoever. Oh, thank you for the $4.99, Janet. I appreciate that. Hey, Jules, how you doing? Thank you for the $1.99. Thank you again for the $1.99. Conveniently placed Q-tip, in my opinion. Yeah, a Q-tip? I mean, I know people clean their ears, but that's so close to an actual swab. I don't know how much of that I can believe. The truth and the facts and the paperwork needs to come on so that we can see actually what's like going on. You know, I have my own thoughts on BP. Yeah. Oh, I need to email you back. Thank you for the $1.99 again. Welcome, Jean. Jean, is it Jean? Is it Jean? Jean Romaine? I love lettuce. I had a big salad earlier. I super love lettuce. Thank you for the $5 super sticker too. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Member for 4 months, Mad Season. I think something scared him into confessing. If it is a confession. See, that's the problem. Like I said, if they would have come out with some specifics, like if they would have had him write something out in like some sort of at least like summary timeline, summary event, then I probably couldn't be saying too much. I mean, I really couldn't be saying anything. We'd be going back and trying to validate and make sense of whatever the timeline was that was written down to the evidence that we have seen and trying to make all of that part make sense. But there wouldn't really be too much that we could question if he was out here giving a true confession. This isn't a true confession. And again, hundreds of people have confessed to things that they did not do. Some people here in this chat, some people listening to my voice right now, some people that you message with every time you're on this platform. We need more. Thank you for the $5, Jules. He also said 1 or 2 words and people are judging him saying he sounded cold. Was he supposed to be amped? You know my thoughts on Brit. Yeah, Brit. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he has medical diagnoses. We've already established this. Everyone has known this. Even before anything came out officially, we pretty much all just assumed he was autistic. The OCD stuff we sort of assumed too, because a lot of people said that he was up late at night vacuuming and cleaning. So all of it was duh. You know what I mean? Like we pretty much all guessed that already. So this is just not enough. I don't know what this means. I don't know what that means. Where's that? I have no idea what that is. So I don't know. I'll have to sealed, submitted to the courts, talked about. All the evidence is out there. Once they release it, well, I don't know if they're going to release it because of HIPAA, but everything is sent to the state. They didn't argue he was autistic. Not once did the state say that's false. They did their own testing on him, and they've never come out and said that it was a lie, that he wasn't autistic. Ever once. Yeah. That's a big one, the Central Park 5. So I don't know. Was that today? I'll have to go in and check it. Maybe. Well, see, and that's the thing too, because the girl that's claiming to have been in the courtroom was like, he's a little frail, thin man with paper thin wrists. They're thinner than mine. And I'm like, and I'm supposed to believe that he did whatever they're claiming that he did to 4 people, including Ethan? The fraternity. People involved with the fraternity. The people that Ethan and Xana got into a huge ass fight with that night. That she called and told her dad all about, which is the reason why Jeff wanted to get in the car and drive from Pullman over to Moscow, but Jasmine wouldn't let him because he had been drinking. That too. The university came in and took the spotlight immediately, and this was an off-campus home that was owned by a different landlord that rented this house out by bedroom. The girls paid utilities. They paid rent. They sent money back and forth to each other on Venmo to cover the water and the trash, the light bill, to buy groceries. The university took over when the university shouldn't have taken over. And it was a glaring example of a big problem. And then not long after the crimes, JLR was driving around and all of a sudden Sigma Chi is surrounded by police. Like 100 freaking cars. And then in Scott Green's book, he blames the fact that Brett Payne is so inexperienced on the reason why they had to step in and do all of those things to begin with. And then they hire him. In case you missed it, Brett Payne no longer works for Moscow Police Department and hasn't since at least mid-April and is now going to work for the University of Idaho. Conveniently. After he's the one that they told the lie to. Remember, both sides got together to come up with the narrative they could all sleep at night about when it comes to the FBI and the IGG. That Brett Payne. The same one that pulled over Santa's helper before she said, I'm friends with Bill Thompson. Right into his badge. Right into his body cam. It's just too much. 5 months, Cammie. Your work doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you. I appreciate y'all being here to try to figure out what in the actual F and F is happening. Because nothing makes sense. Nothing makes any sense whatsoever. Oh, I missed another one. 12 months, Kayla. DoorDash driver saw nothing. If so, MPD would have... Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. Nothing. They would have had him early, just like if he would have actually driven over there in the 9 o'clock-ish hour with the daylight out and the sun shining and all the cameras able to pick up actual detail. We would have had him before the feds even had to send off the sheath. They would have seen him on the same camera. They would have seen him on the Ridge Road camera. They would have seen him on the 1112 camera. They would have maybe seen him on Linda Lane. They're not saying any of that. And they can't make an excuse for it anymore. We're at 9 o'clock in the morning. People have been up and clocked in and hating their lives for hours at that point. There's no way that you can tell me that there's not something, if it's actually true. There has to be. And they have presented nothing. We went over their timeline that they have for the camera footage timestamps 1.5 million times, and there's nothing even saying he even left his apartment that morning. It's just wild. It just makes no sense. But I've been wanting to go over this since it happened. We were going to go over this a couple of days ago, but I've just been paying way too much attention for what's going on in Kerrville. And now there's like more floods. There's more floods happening in like New Mexico, like just as bad. And a couple days before what happened in Kerrville, Ohio had a crazy flash flood that was like halfway up people's houses. There's some crazy weathery shit happening. Some really crazy weathery shit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. Thank you again so much for the super stickers, the super chats, anyone who became a member. Don't forget that we do our members only lives every last Monday of the month. This last one that we did was all about the Idaho case because all of the plea stuff that went on, but normally they're pretty much open discussion. I will have some sort of update thing on Lillian Jack and Travis Decker out pretty soon here. I've been listening to a lot of stuff when it comes to Lillian Jack, and it's just a big old mess with no proof or facts or anything going anywhere, and the cops don't have anything. All I know is that they're nowhere, and we've been told for weeks and weeks now that the mom planned some sort of orchestrated getaway that went wrong and the kids are alive, but where are they? Where are they? So I don't know. Oh, and yes, they do believe that Travis Decker is in Idaho. So that's just beautiful. That's just beautiful. Do I block members? Well, you're not a member, so I don't know why that matters. Huh. Yeah, but they didn't, it wasn't near Kerrville. I listened, I have the whole conversation between the Rainmaker company owner that's a freaking baby. Like I could be this dude's mom. He's so freaking young. I have the entire conversation that he had on a space on Twitter recorded, and I have some articles and stuff pulled up. It wasn't near Kerrville, really. It was down south at the other end of stuff. I have like all the maps and everything. I'm trying to figure out if it actually had anything to do with anything, because with the direction, unless the wind somehow made it come back around to come back up into this low pressure storm, I don't see if it would have anything to do with anything. But I was honestly really surprised about how like common this is. Like I didn't realize that like counties and big agricultural districts have contracts for cloud seeding. And like, it's just become like normal to the point to where like, there's like rotations and schedules where they go and they seed these places on a regular basis, which was odd. I didn't realize that we'd gotten to that part. They even do it in snowy places. Apparently the Chinese do it too, so that their big mountains will have an abundance of snow that has like a, you know, as it melts, it goes down into the fields and stuff, into the villages. Like, I honestly didn't realize until I listened to all of this conversation how normal this is becoming. But I'll say that these low pressure storms have always stalled out over the valley. That's normal. So everything they're trying to say this seeding could have done behavioral wise is literally stuff that people have been seeing happening in Kerrville since like the 30s. So I don't know. But that's it. I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. You guys have a super great night. Relax. Take a breath. We're going to keep going until we have answers. Let me go ahead and... Where's it at? Let me go ahead and roll this real fast. Please do not forget to leave a like on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. All right, you guys. See y'all.